welcome back, and welcome back. Hey, this is Todd Durkin, and this is the the Impact Show. And wow, oh wow. I just need to take a deep breath. Oh man, what a crazy few days it has been. The Get Your Mind Right book just came out 2 days ago, June 2nd. And I just want to start with so much gratitude today. Thank you for all the well wishes, the DMs, the social media posts, the love. I felt it. I've been feeling it. And I just want to thank you for all of the great comments, questions, and everything else coming in. Today is going to be a celebration. I'm going to celebrate all of you. I've got about 50 questions. I'm not going to get through all of them today. I'm going to pick about 10 out of the 50 that have come through and answer them. And there's an array of topics, so buckle up. And does anyone want to join me for like a Get Your Mind Right retreat, like in Hawaii or Bahamas? I want to just plant the seed now that we're going to need to have a retreat. Can I get an amen and amen? So that after we get through the pandemic and all the book launch, that we're going to go into, like, I don't know, this coming winter, we'll go down to an island and just have a good old retreat on that. So a few things today. If you are not part of the Get Your Mind Right contest, I want to invite you to it. It's completely free, and it goes from now until June 16th. And you can win some great prizes. All of my sponsors, and I love all of them. Every sponsor that I work with, I use them, I believe in them, and that's why I endorse them. We are giving great prizes away just for participation. So if you participate, you have a chance to win one of the great prizes. We have a Theragun. You don't want a Theragun out there? We have the TRX suspension trainer, Carnison swag bag full of great supplements. If you want some carnosine beta-alanine along with some other products, we're giving that away. The MyZone heart rate monitor, Under Armour. We got Under Armour swag, including, of course, the vintage gray Mind Right Maniac hoodie. And we've got so many great things going on. So just take a look over to todddurkin.com. You can check out my Instagram as well. All of the details on the Get Your Mind Right contest are there now. So take a look at the action. Certainly, there's a lot going on, but I thank you for being part of that. And thank you for all the comments. I'm just going to read one of the comments that came through the other day that I am so grateful for. And it's a comment that came from Brian Santinelli. Brian Santinelli. I like that name, and it's because he's from Brooklyn, New York. Can I get New York in the house? Hey, TD, I randomly came across your podcast around the start of the COVID pandemic. I ripped through multiple episodes a day and just wanted to say I appreciate you and your mission. Not only have you inspired me to be a better trainer and be a blessing in other people's lives, you've helped me get back in touch with my faith as well. My hope is to be a positive light in this world the same way you are. I appreciate you. Woo-hoo! It's comments like that keep me alive and keep the blood flowing and keep this podcast going. So thank you, Brian Santinelli. I really appreciate those words. I know we've got a lot of fire-breathing dragons, a lot of Mind Right maniacs today. And as a matter of fact, today is all about you, and I'm going to go through some of these Q&A. Please keep the questions coming. You can go to todddurkin.com and take a look and ask your questions through there. Or, of course, you can always DM me as well. But I'm going to pick 10 questions today on an array of topics. The first one, it's a topic of leadership while writing a book. And several people asked this question. Shannon Zeevalk from Pennsylvania asked this question. As a husband and parent to 3 teenagers, where did you fit in quality time with each child as well as your wife while maintaining a business, traveling, and then adding a book to all of that? Maybe sticking to your set of rules, but there's only so many hours in a day. Interesting enough, Shannon, Ryan Rogers, Fitness Quest 10's own Ryan Rogers, asked a similar question. How did you carve out time to write the book with everything else you have on your plate, running a business, coaching clients, time with the family as well? And I would say this. There's a few things that I think worth mentioning, and it comes down to priorities. We all have the same amount of time in a day. How are you prioritizing your time? What are you emphasizing that you need to get done? It comes down to your schedule. If you want to see a person's parties, look at their schedule. Now, I am very meticulous when it comes to the schedule, and I share my schedule actually in the book because I share my complete system all the way down into every Sunday night. I do my W legs, my wins, losses, aha moments, and my goals. And I share that I changed my schedule for most of 2019. So, because I think it was 3 different people asked the question around my schedule and time and how I balanced it all out. Here's what I did. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I took as writing days. I rearranged my entire schedule, and Tuesdays and Thursdays were writing days. And then August 2019 is when I started this podcast. So I started using Tuesdays and Thursdays as a podcasting day and a writing day. So that was my content creation day. I also did a lot of writing on weekends in unpopular hours. Now, please don't judge me. This is me. But in order for me to prioritize my family and go into the kids' games, Luke in football and Brady in football and McKenna in lacrosse and soccer and all that was going on, I typically would work on Saturday afternoons from 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon until about 5 or 6, and then I would shut it down. Sunday, I would work typically 3 to 6 hours on Sunday. Not always recommended, but when I was on a mission, when I was writing the book, 6 hours. Now, typically 2 or 3 of those hours were before anyone got up, and then 2 or 3 of those hours may have been later on in the evening after everyone went to bed. And I would take a chunk of time out in the middle of the day for church, for games, for relaxing, and those things. And then also during the week, typically between 9 and 11 at night, I was writing. So I was getting in chunks of time in unpopular hours, and that's what's needed. When you're on a mission to complete a project, whatever the project is, it's going to take some unpopular hours, and I call it the other 8 hours. It's typically not between 9 and 5 unless you rearrange the schedule like I did on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And on the Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would look for like a 2 to 3 hour really creative window of time where you can, I call it that focus bubble in the book, that focus bubble that you could get in the book. The other thing I would say is that communication is really important. Communication with your spouse. So with Melanie, I would communicate my schedule for the day, what I was doing. And if I'm going into where I'm at right now, I'm literally right now recording the podcast in the fancy studio in San Diego called my home office. I would tell Melanie, this is exactly where I'm sitting right now for this podcast episode as I record, is where I would come in and write the book. This is my creative spot. But priorities are everything, because I would always prioritize, okay, what's the kids' schedule for the week? I'd make sure I get to all their games. And then for Luke and Brady, I coached football at the high school. So I would make sure that, from 2:30 on, I wasn't doing any work at Fitness Quest 10. I wasn't writing the book in the afternoons after 2:30. So on Tuesdays, Thursdays, I would write. Literally I'd have that window of time, typically between 8 and 9 in the morning on up till 12 or 1, and then I would eat, and then I would go to practice, right? And that's when a lot of that work was getting done. So I think it's a great question that several people ask, but that's how I did it all. It was never perfect. It's never is, but that's how I, quote, balanced it all out and prioritized family, the games, what I could go to, because I wanted to go to every game and get to as much as I possibly could, still have date night with Melanie, yet still complete some really, really big projects as well. All right, next question comes from Jose Ruiz, Kansas City, Missouri. Missouri in the house. Of course, he has home of the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. And Jose has 2 questions. One I just answered because it dealt with how did your family deal with you in writing the book? And did you have to remind them of your workload or to get their own mind right? And yes, I had to remind them of the workload. They know that I work a lot, but I also remind them of the work that I'm doing is meaningful and that I always prioritize the things that are important. But he also asked, what makes you have to get your mind right the most on a daily basis? Kids not want to do their schoolwork at home, maybe not ready to do their workout for the day, wife's frustrated with your busy schedule and writing the book or in general. When do you get frustrated with your busy schedule and maybe not as home as much? So to answer that question, Jose, what I would say is the little things that I guess get me frustrated is like if the kids don't make their bed, like make your bed. Kids, make your bed. Just get up, straighten out the bed, make your bed. Or if the room's a mess, just clean it up. Organization is really important. So it's those little things for me that I'll get frustrated at. I never completely lose my cool, but it's just like, hey, make your beds, clean up after yourself. And as far as Melanie is concerned, I always love what Pastor Miles McPherson would talk about is, you may be the head of the household, but your wife is your neck, and the neck can turn the head any way you want. So trying to heed attention to that, I think, is always important. Number 3, Andrea Farrington. Again, I'm going through 10 questions here. Launching a book during a pandemic. Andrea asks, what aspects did you like most when writing the book, and what was the most challenging when you were writing the book? So, Andrea, I would say, let me start with the most challenging part first. Chapter 9, Tap Into the Whispers, was my most challenging part. It's because when I had to really go deep and share my faith like I've never shared before, like this is who I genuinely, authentically am at my innermost core. This is what makes me tick. This is how God speaks to me. This is an intimate relationship that I have with Jesus. This is my relationship. This is what I do. So I shared what I do. And my encouragement in that for people is just to have their own quiet time to tap into their whisper. So that was challenging for me because I have never been so, I don't want to say outspoken, but just so open, right? Just not even outspoken, just open about my innermost self. Also, another challenging part was taking all of the systems that I use on a regular daily basis and putting it on paper, because I have been extremely regimented in the structure of my day, week, month, quarter, year, and life, that I have literally created a complete system. And while I've taught my mastermind this over years, to put it in a book is not easy. And that includes, like, I've got my 10 forms of wealth and my 3 and 30 and all the rules that I live by. And again, my W.L.W.L. So that was another challenging part. And then you might laugh at this, but the training and nutrition section was really challenging for me. Now you probably are laughing like, how's that, why is that? Well, because I had to take, like, that's what I do, all the knowledge, and put it into a chapter. I could write an entire book on training or on nutrition, and this book is not for trainers and coaches per se. This is not a book just on how to be a better coach, although it will certainly help coaches be a better coach. It really is about people who are fitness enthusiasts, people who are weekend warriors, people who are leaders and leading companies and organizations, and athletes and people who want to improve their nutrition. Like, so to take all of the knowledge that I have on these topics and put it into a chapter and keep it simple so that anyone can really benefit from it was a little more challenging than one would think. And then the last part really isn't on the book per se as far as the content, but one of the most challenging parts of writing any book is called writer's block. And there were times when I would get writer's block, when I didn't have the energy, I didn't have the focus, I didn't have the wherewithal that day to really produce what I wanted to. And I get frustrated. I would just chalk it up and I would switch topics. I wouldn't write on my book. I'd go to something else. It wasn't like I'd plow through it. There's times when I try to plow through it, but there are days when I just couldn't. So that was a challenging part, realizing that it always takes a little bit longer than you want to write a book. Which parts did I like the best on that, Andrea? I love the recovery section, because in the recovery section, I share some of the things that I've been doing and have done, all the way from the most challenging things of, like, I got stem cells. I went over to London, England last year, and I got stem cells, systemic stem cells in my body so that they would attack the weakest parts. I didn't just get them injected into my knee replacement that I had, but it was really so if I've had 5 concussions, that if I had any areas of my body, this type of stem cell treatment that I had is, from what I've researched, the most powerful form of stem cell treatment that you could possibly have. So I enjoyed that section, including all the way down into the power of touch and body work. And it's even more important now. I enjoyed talking about strong again and some of the stories that I had really not revealed about the show Strong, which at that time was on NBC. Now it's on Netflix, and many of you have seen that. And then I guess the part that's just my favorite part was just it's on dreams. It's on living a life worth telling a story about. I end the book with that aspect. It's that plea. It's that call to action to live a life worth telling the story about. What's your story? Because I am so of the belief that all of us listening in right now have gifts that the world needs. As a matter of fact, the world needs it more now than ever before. Now is the time when the world needs you. So for me, it's about, man, we got to go deep. We got to dream big, and we got to dream, and we got to keep the juices flowing. I'm like, get the juices flowing, get the juices flowing. Motion is lotion, movement is medicine. Movement is part of it. And exercise and training and getting your prayer time is a huge aspect, but also sitting the booty down and getting that butt glue and putting your dreams on paper. Even now, in the month of June, it's crucial that we think about in this new era, in this new time of our life, what are we doing to recreate ourselves, and what are we doing to impact the world? So for me, Andrea, it's a great question, but those were the most challenging parts, also the parts that I really enjoyed the most on that. Janine Lair asks, thank you, Janine, Embrace Fitness out in Illinois. How was writing the book and launching it during the coronavirus pandemic different than previous books that you've written? Good question, Janine. I've never written a book during a pandemic. Matter of fact, I don't think too many people have, because there haven't been that many pandemics that have shut the world down like this one has. So certainly launching this book, and by the way, I don't know, is this book going to be successful, more successful than any of them? I don't know. I don't know how many people are going to buy this book, and I don't know how many people are going to use this book, but I can tell you this. I don't care if we sell 1,000 books or we sell 10,000 books or 100,000 books. I didn't write this book specifically to get a certain amount of money. I didn't write this book to just say I'm a #1 bestseller. I wrote the book to change lives. Let me repeat. I wrote the book to change lives, because late on a Saturday night when you're sitting down and you're like, man, I'm tired, you ain't doing it because of the paycheck or because you're thinking #1 bestseller, you're going to make, Amazon or New York Times or Wall Street Journal. That's all fine and dandy. For me, it's like, man, there's some depressed man or woman, kid who's going to read this book and is going to take action on what's in the book, and their life's going to be changed. That's what fires me up. That's why I write this book. That's what this is about. So I've said it before, I don't know. This is probably going to be the most challenging few months as far as ever launching a book. But there's never a better time for this book to come out than in the midst of a pandemic. So regardless of whatever the numbers are, good or bad, indifferent, I can tell you this: the people who read this book and share this book and spread the gospel of motivation and inspiration, there will be lives changed, and hopefully there'll be lives saved. Maybe it's because of this podcast. Maybe it's because of this book. Listen, this won't be my last book I ever write. This podcast won't be the last episode, God help me, that I ever record. But it's the combination over time, that, man, hey, 1 life saved, 2 lives saved, 3 lives saved, 4 lives. Next thing you know, there's hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of lives that are changed. That's why I do what I do. Good question, Janine, on that. Oh, getting a little heated in here. Michelle Olson, Kirkland, Washington. Michelle Olson up in Kirkland, Washington. If you knew that COVID-19 was on its way, would you have added or changed anything else to get your mind right during a global pandemic? Great question. Similar question here on this fourth one. Jen Lockwood up in Oregon says, TD, what would you change or add to your book from experiencing COVID quarantine? So there's a lot of questions coming in about, because I wrote it in 2019, early, coming out in early 2020, launching here June 2nd, just a couple days ago. Would I change anything? Yes, I would. I would have added a chapter called When Life Throws You a Curveball, What Do? Swing. Don't go down looking. Swing. Take action. Literally take action. The worst thing you could do is do nothing. So I would have added a chapter if I knew when life throws you a curveball. On that, I think that's what I would do. And Jen Lockwood, on that. What I would say is one of the things I did differently during the quarantine that's different from my book. I talk about my W.L.W.L, my wins, losses, aha moments, and goals for this upcoming week. It's something I've done for over a decade. I changed it during the pandemic. Too many losses going on. I just every week for several weeks, I was like, my loss column was like a page long of everything going down, from furloughing 35 employees to, the revenue that was completely lost at Fitness Quest. And like the losses were just depressing. And let's put it this way, it wasn't getting the mind right. So I changed my W-Lags. For the time being, I'm calling them swags. Shout outs. So I'm shouting out mastermind members or my teammates or my family, my wins on that, my aha moments, and my goals. So my swags, I've just changed my shout outs, my wins, and I'm not counting the losses. I'm not counting the losses. There's just gonna be too many losses. So that'd be one. And then I've said something over the holidays every year for a long time, and it perhaps rings true today more than ever before. And I used to do it boot camp style. I'd be going, slow down, simplify, do less, breathe, work out. Well, I would go on and on as we're jogging along Mission Bay. And those words right there, those 5 phrases, perhaps are more meaningful now than ever before. Slow down, simplify, do less, breathe, and work out. So those 5 words, those 5 phrases, what do they mean to you? It doesn't mean do nothing. What it means is slow down. Think about your strategy right now. Slow down everything. Slow down your breath, right? Simplify your life. Whether you like it or not, life has been simplified into some really fundamental, foundational, basic things. And you know what? In many ways, it's been a blessing. Can I get an amen on that? It's been an absolute blessing in some ways. As a matter of fact, as we start to ramp up here in June, is anyone else feeling a little anxious, a little anxiety about, oh my gosh, I don't want to go back to exactly the pace that I was keeping on that. Do less. It doesn't mean don't be as significant. Doing less means focus on the things that are going to make the biggest impact in your life on that. That's why I reorganized my schedule and said, when I was working on my strategy for my life a couple of years ago, 2018, I said for 2019, when I'm writing this book, I'm going to take Tuesdays and Thursdays, and instead of training people at the gym and teaching my classes, I'm actually going to use that as a content day. I'm going to write the book, and I'm going to, starting in August 2019, start the podcast. And that's what I did. And that allowed me to create the book. Breathe and work out. So great question, Jen Lockwood. Really, really great question. Number 5 here of 10. I'm going to get through 10 today, and then we'll call it a day. But I'm hoping that you're enjoying these questions coming in. This next one, Maria Meweiss, San Marcos, California, in the house. Maria, I have a question that relates to chapter 3 in the book. Sawman. I remember that time vividly. Guys, Ken Sawyer was my best friend. He died at the age of 51. If you read my WOW book, I talk about him a lot. And he was tragically killed. He was hit by a car on his motor scooter going to work out at 6 o'clock in the morning. But he was a really, really amazing man, one of my biggest cheerleaders, one of my best friends. He is the one who encouraged me to open Fitness Quest 10 in late 1999, which eventually opened in January 2000. And certainly I don't ever have a day where I don't think about my man Sawman. I remember that time vividly, that his service was so beautiful, moving and positive. I cried as I read that chapter 3. I know how much he meant to you and you to him. How long did it take you to write that chapter? And what did you do to prepare yourself to write about the Sawman, especially knowing you probably have to talk about it once you started the book tour? Maria, actually, it wasn't very difficult at all. Man, I still get emotional thinking about that guy because his spirit is still alive. But I found that my pen was flowing, my computer was typing away, and sometimes I feel like it's not even me that is typing away or the pen is flowing. It's just kind of like it's cathartic. And that chapter, because I talk about both my father in that chapter and how he wrote me letters every single day. Like I shared a little bit in the WOW book, but I get a little deeper here in GYMR, Get Your Mind Right book. And then with Sawman, actually, it was one of the easier sections of the book between Sawman and my dad, because it was very emotional for me. And when my emotions are flowing, right, it's always like, you know, when you get emotional, emotion invokes motion, emotion invokes motion. When we get emotional about someone, something, it flows, and that creates motion, and motion creates momentum. So it's a good question. I'm glad that you enjoyed chapter 3 as well. And Dan Richter, thank you. A follow-up question on that. Hey, TD, how did you finally realize and listen to Sawman to go bigger? What made you finally decide to listen to him? If he had to do it all over again, would you do anything different with your business and book? Well, it's because he wouldn't let me not do it. Frankly, he said, TD, listen, you don't have anything. You have that beat up old Volvo, 1986, with the velour hanging down that you're going to lose if you don't do this. I was like, man, I got too much to lose. He's like, that's all you have to lose. You have nothing else. I said, you're right. So it was really his prompting that kicked my booty. Instead of getting the 800 square foot studio that I was looking at, that I opened at that point, a 2,000, soon to be then a 3,000 square foot facility, which then grew into an 8,000 square foot facility, and then grew into creating a mastermind and everything else, all because of his prompting to go bigger. Bottom line is this. I always tell people, when you're starting a business, whatever time it is, and by the way, now is a good time to start a business, depending on what you're starting. The timing may be right, but I always say this: you got to write a business plan, because I did not write a business plan. I had no money, and I had very few clients at the time. So you want to write it down. You want to strategize. You want to dream. You want to get all your thoughts on paper, and then have mentors or people you highly respect, colleagues that have been there, done that, and made mistakes, do it as well. So if I had to do it all over again, would I do anything different? I don't think I would, just because I like where I'm at. I like what I've created. I did make a lot of mistakes, but those mistakes were based on action, not by inaction. So I would say, you got to make sure you're taking action as well. David McGarry, question number 7. Talk a little bit more about Shawn Stevenson and the W.L.W.L. When was that time for you? So the W.L.W.L, if you have not heard me talk about it, and I talk about it in the book, is when life works list. When life works list. When life was working best for you, what were you doing? Who were you training with? How were you spending your time? Where were you living? Who were you living with? What were your best habits? What were your worst habits? What were you doing and not doing? Write it all down. Literally write down your W.L.W.L. What were you reading? How often were you reading? Were you reading in the evenings? Were you listening to podcasts? What podcasts were you listening to? You want to repeat over and over the habits that will allow you to be your best. So Shawn Stevenson, the 3-foot giant, bless his soul, talked about the W.L.W.L. And I got a chance to meet Shawn a few years ago before his passing. And I've always loved that, because I believe that success is micro victories over time. Very rarely do we hit home runs, although sometimes you see people like, man, he or she got lucky. No. That luck is probably many, many failures, setbacks, adversity that allowed you over time to learn things and then ultimately get to where you are today. So discover your W.L.W.L, and then it's your opportunity to continue to replicate that over and over. Question number 8, Stephanie Carroll. Hey, Todd, it's Steph from Chatham, New Jersey, a 91 William & Mary Tribe alum. Chatham, Jersey. Love it. Get a little Jersey fist pump right there. And a tomahawk chop for William & Mary Tribe Pride. You talked about your mentor, Wayne Cotton, and his advice to manage your energy and recovery. By the way, I highly encourage all of you to go back later on and listen to that episode with Wayne, 2 episodes with Wayne Cotton back to back. You obviously are a very empathetic and giving person who goes all in on whether you're training an individual or a group. How do you manage your mental and emotional energy across your day? What was it about Wayne's advice that rang so true for you? Would your path have been different over the last 10 years if you had not effectively managed the energy and your recovery? Loving the book. Wow, Steph, thank you very, very much. Wow. Whew. I can't even imagine where my life would be without Wayne Cotton, because Ken Sawyer prompted me to open the business. Wayne Cotton came in and taught me how to open and run a business. And he gave and imparted so much wisdom to me. As a matter of fact, again, go back. I'll put it in the show notes, the episodes that he was on, Wayne Cotton. But it was his systems and it was his wisdom that allowed me to create the, quote, systems that would be in my head and in the playbook that would allow me to open up and then eventually achieve success. I can't imagine, honestly, having had any of the success I had without Wayne. It would have been a lot longer, a lot harder without Wayne's wisdom and without having that mentor. And, without that in the last, I wouldn't say 10 years, the last 20 years, the last year, if I wasn't able to manage my energy and recovery, honestly, I'd be burnt out. Because I go hard. When I'm working and I work a lot of hours and I work hard and very focused, and I pride myself on the sustainability and the endurance that I have. But I will publicly say right here on this podcast that I don't just keep going and going and going 7 days a week and not build in that mellow yellow time. Without the recovery time off, I would die, like literally die on that, or I would be burnt out and fried on this. And even during this pandemic, I don't know in the last 2.5 months if I've ever worked harder in my life. I mean, on everything from the podcast to the GNN, the Good News Network, I'm doing every single day at 12 noon. The Get Yoked program that I created. All of the systems and regulations that need to be created for Fitness Quest 10 and leading my mastermind group through the most tumultuous time of our industry's history. Like, it's been a really, really busy few months, but for me, the energy that goes out you must kind of recalibrate and rejuvenate. And while some of that will be coming up with mellow yellow time once we reopen and get going, I also have these very I call mini micro vacations in there, which might happen on a Sunday and a Saturday afternoon now that the book is created. So without the systems like the mellow yellow time and the blue sky time, the strategic time of like, what am I working on? Because it's really easy to be busy, but when you're being busy doing the right things, it's actually energizing. It doesn't mean it's not tiring. It is energizing when you're working on, for me, I love doing these podcasts. I absolutely love them. I hope you love them and enjoy them as much as I love creating them. The book writing process, I actually love the process. It's long, it's tedious. You talk about delayed gratification, like this book was written like 2019, and here it is mid 2020. It's now coming out in the midst of a crazy pandemic on that stuff. So Stephanie, it's a great question. For me, again, going back to the 4-color coded calendar system, Wayne Cotton, nobrowndays.com is a system I to this day employ about building in mellow yellow time, blue sky time, so that I can really make sure that when I am producing my best work, that it is truly my best work as well. Question number 9, Roy Kribda from Jacksonville, Florida. Out of everyone that you know in your time in the fitness industry, who do you think has the get your mind right mentality that closely resembles yours, and why? That's a good question. Well, there are several people. There are people that maybe are a little bit more popular because they're presenters, and there are people who most people may not know that I know because I coach them that have that same mentality, that same tenacity, that same work ethic and discipline on that. But the GYMR, I'd say from someone that may know because he was on my podcast a few episodes ago, I would say Martin Rooney certainly has the same get your mind right mentality that closely resembles mine. A man that many of you don't maybe know not as popular as a presenter, but as impactful as a trainer, as a coach, and as a presenter. Dave Jack. Dave Jack is a man of faith. Dave Jack walks his walk and walks his talk. Man, you want to follow someone that like will fire you up as well. Follow Dave Jack. I mean, Dave Jack is truly someone who I look at. I'm like, I marvel at his walk of as a coach trainer, his work in publication, but in how he works with his family and prioritizes his family as well. There's guys like Ryan Morse, who I coach, who's like, these are guys like him and Andrew Simpson. These guys are coming up, and these guys are in their 20s and 30s, and they're like up and comers. And like, I used to be that guy, and now I'm like, wow, these guys here, you know, the Morses of the world, the Matt Stockers of the world, Simpsons, Mattispews, and then even a guy like Brian Nunez, man. Brian Nunez is another get your mind right maniac. Here's a guy who was at my 3.5-day mentorship, and he is just taking the ball. Literally, he's taken the ball and run with it. Another guy you want to follow, Nunez, on that. So I would say those people most closely, I guess, that I see resemble, but there's a lot of gals out there that have that same mentality. Tracy Taylor, Jill Rooks, Amanda Middleman, Lisa Berman. The book, it goes on and on and on and on because of the energy that we all have. So what I always say is this: I don't want anyone to be me. I don't want anyone to be me. What I want people to do is to take energy and what someone may learn from me, and then go out and take what they learn from me and be themselves. Is to go out and have that courage and audacity to be themselves and take a little bit of what I may share and teach and what someone else, another mentor may teach, and then go do that as well. So great question on that, Roy. Number 10, what I would say here, we look at this Jenna Mango, Bethel, Connecticut. If you had to pick 3 words that contribute to your success, what would they be and why? 3 words. Maybe it's three phrases. I'll say, Jenna, 3 phrases. Number 1, I would say discipline to the details. Discipline to the details. I definitely am very disciplined on details, and I that's one of my strengths. I guess the second one is driven. So if it's discipline to the details, I'd say driven, and driven by dreams. I'm definitely a dreamer, and I'm driven by dreams. I'm driven by purpose. So I dream, and my dreams, I'm always okay. If this is a divine purpose, if this is a divine dream, then I've got to act on that. And then the third word, I would say GSSD. GSSD, fill in the blank. And for me, get serious stuff done. Okay, but you can fill in whatever you want. GSSD, get serious stuff done. Take action. Y'all know, you've heard me say before, ready, fire, aim, not ready, aim, fire, ready, fire, 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 aim. Take action and have the leader mentality. Have the leader mentality to go out today and be a leader of what am I going to do today to lead people at a great level. And to me, those would be 3 words. It's hard to kind of think about just 3 words or 3 phrases, but discipline to the details, driven by dreams, and GSSD. Get serious stuff done on that. I'm gonna go with one more, just because it's called and then some. Last one, and then we'll wrap it up. And I want to get your comments today too. Please feel free to share this episode if you're finding value. It's not just about the book; it's about your life. It's about high performance, about balancing family, the book, the mastermind, everything that we do. But this is a deep question, and it's about failure. And Tim Urbanek from Kenosha, Wisconsin, former, I think it was 2012, did an internship out at Fitness Quest 10, and haven't connected in a while. But Tim, thanks for the question. He was finally able to download Get Your Mind Right. I'm about 50 pages in. There's a lot of great content. Most of the topics are successors with struggles in various degrees. However, I was wondering what stories that you don't have, that don't have a happy ending. The greatest of leaders have all failed, some greater than others. Walt Disney as an example. I believe it's in these failures we get to truly see someone's character. When the seas are calm, everyone loves to be at the helm of the ship. Amen. A true leader takes the helm during the toughest of times, even in the face of fear and certain failure. As a lieutenant in the fire department, I'm in a leadership role that directly affects the outcome on the team's success or failure. Staying humble and making mistakes is part of the job. Amen. Showing the guys I'm human like them, I too make mistakes and fail from time to time. These failures help me really connect with the crew, as it makes me appear just as vulnerable as they are. Do you have a story that's not covered in the book that you would care to share that didn't end the way you wanted? Certainly your football career may come to your mind, but that is a success in my eyes. Without that setback, you wouldn't have had the comeback you did with meeting your wife, opening a ultra successful gym, starting a family, and creating impact in so many lives. Can you share a story? Tim, I'm going to end with this because I think it is a great question. And it's interesting because my first thought would have been my football career initially, as far as a setback, because that set me back 5 years. And people might say, yeah, but look what it did to you now. A lot of times when you're going through hell and back, you don't see that. Even now in the midst of this pandemic, people who are down, depressed, anxious, stressed beyond belief, potentially lost their job, feel that. Maybe in 5 years, they look back at this as the biggest blessing of their lives too. It's funny how sometimes when people look at athletes, celebrities, musicians, actors, actresses, they forget the path they traveled. For myself as a coach, trainer, father, there have been certainly many losses in different areas that many times people don't see. See, I can't sit up here today on the podcast and say, well, I've been divorced. I haven't been. I haven't been through a bankruptcy. I haven't had cancer. I haven't had a heart attack. I haven't had a nervous breakdown. But I have had a lot of setbacks. I have made a lot of mistakes. I've had my share of failures in that, and some that you've heard, and some you have not. And you mentioned one with my back injury on that. Just start with business. In 20 years of doing business, I've hired and fired a lot of people, and I've hired some really great people, and I've also hired some real donkeys too. Matter of fact, I once hired someone that on day one, I knew that I had the blanket pulled in front of my eyes in the interview process, which rarely happens. He was fired less than a week into the job. I was like, wow, how did he get through the ranks on this one? That was a colossal mistake. My team was shaking their head at me on that. So I would say that would be one. Here's another little failure. And this doesn't maybe not be big, but this is one that I still pull my hair out. Sometimes I'm so busy at Fitness Quest 10 when it's in normal circumstances that I don't catch all the conversations that I need to. You know, one of the things the pandemic has done, it slowed everyone down, including myself. Sometimes I'm busy and I'm not out on the floor as much as I want to be because I'm doing, quote, busy work. You know, another failure, things that you don't see is when you know, people see the prettiness and when people are traveling and they're doing all these lectures and workshops. But I've said yes to a lot of travel events, speaking gigs that were not all they were cracked up to be, or that left their fair share, that I was stuck in an airport, or I had to get a hotel overnight and miss putting the kids down, or that I was stuck in a lobby at 2:00 in the morning in Providence, Rhode Island, even last year with no place to go. And the hotel was close, you know, was an hour away. And it was literally after 2:00 in the morning. I've had my share of missed flights. You'd be like, well, these aren't really failures, but they're big frustrations that, you know, you don't get life on your own terms sometime. I've had events where I've been sick. Last year, I was in the emergency room at 6:00 in the morning on the day of one of my mastermind retreats. Leadership at Fitness Quest 10. I've led my team through 9/11, and with our clients and members at Fitness Quest 10. There's been 2 massive sets of fires in our community that burned down hundreds of homes, and we had to get through that time. The economy crashing in 2008 and 9. We've had tragic deaths in our community, including, I mentioned, Sawman and Louis Barajas and many other former clients and members who have passed away. Now this COVID-19, are they failures? They're just adversities and obstacles and setbacks that sometimes they challenge you to your core, that no one really sees how much emotional toil they take on someone. In business, no one really knows, but they do know if they followed it. But in 2015, do you remember when I launched this new, exciting new platform called FitBlock? My partner and I invested over $500,000 in FitBlock. Guess what? That was a virtual streaming platform where you could train live or via schedule with trainers on this open platform from all over the world. It failed. Peloton didn't fail. The timing was wrong for us. We invested a lot of money in that. And was it a failure? Yeah, it was. If you look at it in pure terms of like the money that went into it, the time that went into it, the hundreds of hours that we put into it, all the research and the development and that was a colossal failure. But the timing wasn't right for that. Couple years later now, look at all of the streaming videos and events that we're doing now amidst everything. And then lastly, I would just say this, is just even like parenting. Again, I didn't have this big meltdown. Unfortunately, my wife and I have been married for 19 years and we're as much in love today as we were the day we got married, and I'd say even more so. But there were a lot of times, especially early on in our relationship when we had young kids, I missed a lot of the quote little things because I was building a business. I was working. I look back on them now and I wouldn't do them exactly as I did then. Even though I was building a business, I share this in my mentorship program, is I missed some really, really key things early on in my kids' time because they were too young, is what I would say. They were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. And I was training 6.5 days a week on that. So long story short, yeah, I've had a lot of setbacks and failures between bad hires, having to make fires, and not always being the leader that I wanted to be. But the one thing I always did was I would share from my heart is if I was frustrated or, if I was really struggling with something, including when Melanie had 2 miscarriages, I remember crying to my team about how hard that was as a father and as a leader to get through because the pain that we had as parents of that. So Tim, thank you for the question on that. The bottom line is this. All of us will have setbacks. The bottom line is where the setback is, what do you do with it? What are you going to do with that setback? And one thing that I have always made sure that when I've had any kind of a setback, that I don't stay down too long. We can't afford to stay down. You got to get up. You got to make sure that you get up and you don't stay down. And whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's your health, whatever it may be. Heck, look at even my knee surgery end of 2018, man, that was a setback. But it also was the time when I started writing my book, right? Like, how do you take that setback and allow yourself to actually start to do something with that setback? And whether it's a massive setback that, to the world and to the public looks big, or it's really small. Sometimes it's those small little things that gnaw at you, that bite at you every day. Those things over weeks and months and even years have to be dealt with on that. So what I would encourage anyone today who is facing any form of failure, adversity, setback, is to get up, get back to your W.L.W.L, when life works list, get back to the habits that are going to allow you to excel. And when you do that, I promise you life will turn around and continue to do the things that you need to do. Right? So great questions today. I want to thank you all. And whether you're out walking, jogging, running, you're on the elliptical right now, you're in your home office, you're at the office because you're getting back to work, I just want to have a huge shout out for all of you. Thank you for the week. This has been a crazy busy week with the book coming out just 2 days ago. And let me tell you what, these next few weeks are going to be like wildfire. The month of June is International Get Your Mind Right Month. International Get Your Mind Right Month. So thank you for spreading the gospel, both in this podcast. Please share this podcast and please share the book. If you got the book, take a picture of it, tag me. on Instagram stories or Facebook. Tag me in that book. And then share it with your colleagues, your friends, your family members, because it goes more than just beyond getting your mind right. It's really about creating a structure for your business, for your life, for your productivity, your energy, your well-being, your vitality, so that you can be the best that you're designed to be. So thank you so much. I've got to give a special shout out to my team. Both at Fitness Quest 10, as we start to open up shop here this week. We're starting to get rocking and rolling. I'm so excited for what's about to come, and for everyone at Todd Durkin Enterprises, all of my team that's been working tirelessly through the last couple months so that we can produce this podcast, that we can get this book out successfully on that. Matter of fact, we're gonna go out to Julie Wilcox right now. She's got some special announcements for you all. So thanks so much for joining us. Let's go over to Julie and see what she has to say. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Todd. Hey, huge shout out to all the folks who are loving the book so far. I've got a couple incredible endorsements that I want to read today. I've got one from Marissa Axel. Marissa says to us, I enjoyed the book cover to cover. The easy to grasp high performance principles that Todd Durkin models, lives by, and discusses in detail are 100% on point, especially in the time of pandemic. The book already inspired me to change up my morning routine to a resounding success. Anyone looking to level up their business, their life, should read this book. Take any of Todd's easily applicable ideas and take action to live and play at world class and develop impact in your own community. Massive thanks to Baker Books for allowing me the advanced copy to review. Thank you, Marissa, for actually being on the launch team. That was awesome. Patrick Burke says, Todd brings the energy, passion, and divine purpose with this gem of a book. The book, Get Your Mind Right, will have you thinking deeply on all areas of your life that you want to improve. His passion to serve shines in chapter after chapter as he shares his life lessons, stories, and practical ways to get your mind right. Now more than ever, this message hits home for anyone who needs some positivity in their lives. If you're ready to take the steps toward a better life, physically, mentally, spiritually, I urge you to read this book and take the words to heart. Go out there and get your mind right. Wow. Hey guys, you too can go out there and get your mind right. Go to todddurkin.com/getyourmindright and get your book today. It is awesome. You're not going to want to put it down, and it'll definitely help you with getting your mind right. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you, Julie Wilcox. She has been in the trenches with me for a long time, and I so appreciate her and all that she is doing to make sure that we continue to offer the gospel to you. So shout out to you, Julie, and to all of you, once again, thank you. Don't forget, we've got a contest going on. Don't forget to go over to todddurkin.com or check out my Instagram, the Get Your Mind Right contest from now through June 16th. Just by being part of it, it's all free. You can win a Theragun, a TRX suspension trainer, the Carnison swag bag, the MyZone heart rate monitor, Under Armour, and the vintage gray Mind Right Maniac hoodie. So get it all now. Hop over to the website, check it out, join. It's free. Spread the gospel, and don't forget, get your mind right.